All right, all right. It's kind of another testing situation. We're trying to stream off of the phone, but stream from the computer. So this is supposed to be a vertical stream. I'm hoping that you see just my logo and a little red dot indicating that I'm speaking. Hopefully that is what you see, and hopefully it is vertical. Therefore, being able to get it looks vertical by this preview. But hopefully we're able to get people who show up organically. Hey, Cotton Ministries. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate you being here. It's always cool to be here. It's super late. It's definitely wanted to do the stream like hours and hours ago. I'm not going to lie. Couple things I think it is. Today's my birthday. It just hit me like before I started the stream. I was born. My birthday's October 2nd, so my birthday just started. I just released new music, and I'm going through this process of releasing my first EP, and then coming behind that quickly with a hip hop EP. And I just got this. Thank you, Cotton. Appreciate it. It's just this intense fear of fucking up and failure, but I'm just getting over it and just like, I gotta do it because I should have been releasing music this entire time. I really wish I had spent as much time as I put in this channel into releasing music, and this whole time I had spent the whole time releasing music. I didn't, and so here we are, and we're gonna do the best we can going forward, and that's that, I guess. But there is this nervousness, anxiety, depression, uneasiness that's going on. That said, that's not what we're here to talk about. Here to talk about the NFL, which nobody really watches. So I'm hoping the vertical platform gives me a few more views. I'm not going to be on camera today. Just don't got the energy for it, especially the mask is not the easiest thing to wear. I do have this screen and then this screen. And this was probably a little easier to read. If at all, maybe hit the old was it F11? Oops, that's not what I want to do. Wait, this here. There we go. In any event, we got 30 games to go over instead of the usual 32 because the buys have started. We got the games from last week, 16 that were last week, and the 14 upcoming to go over, give my thoughts on. I also should be making videos on some of this content. Appreciate you being here, Fizz. Thank you for being here. It's cool that you guys show up, man. Cause I know that no one really cares about football. Not too many, but I know Brandon Holland does. You're right. Texas halfback room is really Chubb, Woody, and DP. Wild stuff. Only thing you need to improve your run games is Blue Chew. Do you know I cut Woody Marks twice? And somebody else in my fantasy league has picked him back up. I knew to hold on to this guy that he would eventually have a chance, especially because of Mixon being hurt. And now he's actually starting to produce. So I really fucked that up. My fantasy, my paid leagues are okay, but I'm still kind of fucking up. I knew he was a sleeper, but then I thought, what if they're going to go with Chubb more? So I cut him for Chubb. And then he kind of had a breakout game the other day. Should have asked. I should have. But I knew. I just got antsy. The problem. I need to start playing fantasy. There's this thing called best ball. I don't play that. I play traditional fantasy, and that means you have to pick who you start and who you don't. In best ball, you just set it and forget it. And I am constantly having guys on my bench ball out. George Pickens was on my bench the other day. I think every single week I've had somebody great on my bench. Cardinals trade for Dameon Pierce. What's his name? Connor just went down. You know, I got a question. Why haven't the now Woody Marks has emerged? Cool, but I didn't understand why the Texans didn't get involved in more trades for running backs. Sounds like Stroud hasn't gotten along with Slowick or Caley. I mean, to be honest, I haven't seen great offensive coordination from either. I will say that the offensive line is slightly more improved. And and that's something. And I think, I don't know, Jeffrey Simmons. I don't know. Connor and Benson is down. I didn't know Benson was down. I picked him up off the waiver wire because Connor went down. Well, I'm fucked there. Oh, fuck. I'm glad you told me that. Shit. That's what happens when you don't pay attention every fucking minute. Fuck, that sucks. That sucks. And I got to make a video on that Texas Ravens game because that's like, these are teams that I thought were going to compete potentially for a Super Bowl next year or this coming year. And now it looks like neither may make the playoffs. Both have a lot of issues. Obviously, Lamar may be hurt, which make this an easier game for the Texans, though the Texans are such a bad offense, such a generationally bad offense. I think one of the issues is they don't run the ball enough, and they don't do enough simple stuff, and they don't do enough fancy stuff. There was no when Nick Caley came over here, we thought we were going to see a lot of shit that the Rams do, a lot of that pre-snap motion, and it makes the defense easier to read. Granted, people do hide their coverage, but you run a lot more motion. You can tell if it's zone or man. Traditionally, again, a lot of people try to hide that coverage. And you make your job easier. You put people in different spots. You can scheme people open. We haven't seen any of that. I don't know what offense this is. D'Amico likes the DTs, tackles, age 28 to 31. All Simmons and old Titan teammate Alshire Autry, Mario Edwards are all Titans now. Really? Maybe. Trade deadlines. You got about a month, right? Isn't it November? November 1st or something like that. November, or maybe the second week of November. I'm not sure when the deadline is. There's always that issue of integrating players, though. Ed Ingram. Yeah, I saw that. Ed Ingram was the highest rated guard, period, by PFF. And I don't think PFF is the gospel, Pro Football Focus, but that was fucking surprising. That was very surprising. I know this kind of turned to a Texans show, and it does not look like we're getting that advantage of that vertical love. Ain't no love in the heart of the city. It seems like maybe they can tell I'm not doing it from the phone. We'll see. But I did see that. So, but honestly, I don't know if he was the best guard in the league, but I do think the offensive line is a little bit improved. I think they're at least a decent run line. I think they should have been running the ball a lot more. I think they should run the ball a lot more with Marks and Chubb and DP. Just while pause with all those things, but they just got to get more carries. And that helps a lot. And then they got to figure a way to scheme Nico open, man. There's no reason to have one of the best receivers. And maybe I'm saying this because he's on my fantasy team. Maybe I'm saying it because he's the best. He should be the best offensive player on his team. And he's only had like one or two decent games. It's like, where the hell is he? Also, and I don't know if this is a shot on Caserio or Caley or D'Amico, because D'Amico's issue is he just goes to the defense. He doesn't give a shit about the offense. That's why, I'm sure you see me in the chats, D'Amico no O. And then I'll joke and call it Huston instead of Houston, like no O. But okay, you drafted Woody Marks. You traded an extra draft pick to go up and get Woody Marks. You drafted not Jalen Noel, Jaden Higgins. You paid him a guaranteed contract in the second round, which most teams didn't want to do. You put extra resources in these rookies. I thought they were going to be used in a bigger way than they have been used. Like I said, Woody Marks obviously had the breakout game on this past Sunday. You put these rookies on the field, and they're not even getting a chance to produce. That's a disconnect between your GM and your coaching, one way or another. Because you put resources behind these. You put extra resources behind these picks. You chose these players instead of maybe contributing to the offensive line. Though you did get Ursery, and I think Ursery is going to probably end up being a good guy. You might, and long term, now that we got a few games in, I think you did improve this offensive line. Still not great, but guess what, homie? A lot of teams that got offensive line that's not great. It's better than like the Bengals. Well, then to me, this is on Caley. You have to create the offense for the players you have. You can't create an offense. And Caley's trying to run this weird. I heard this rumor that they looked at the 2002 Patriots or some shit. Who gives a shit? Why are we looking at 20-year-old offenses? Are you out of your mind? Like, use the players you have and use them to their best abilities. When the players gave up on the OC and started calling their own plays later in the game, started scoring, they're probably better off doing that. I think Nick Caley, and you know what? This is why I can't totally blame Caley. He shouldn't have got the job. Why did you hire an inexperienced play caller for a Super Bowl team? Between D'Amico, or Cassari and Demick, because there's no O. I don't care about that, 2 quarters of football because it was 6-0 and a half. There's still no O in Houston. It's Huston. And I don't care that, what's the big rumor? That Slowick was Demick's hire and Cassari hired Caley. And of course it's Cassari on D'Amico. But I don't give a fuck. You should after you had a first-time play caller fail, even if you wanted somebody out of your Rolodex, and if it was on Nick Caserio, cool, you should hire someone with experience. Do not hire a first-time play caller. And there's something wrong with some of these weird-ass coaches. We saw with Ashton Genty. They that fucking jackass who ruined Philly back in the day. What the fuck is his name? Oh, it's his brain. Chip Kelly. He's one of the most overrated. He's a decent coordinator, but he's an overrated head coach and should never be a head coach of anything. Shouldn't be a head coach of a little league. But he made Ashton Genty fucked up his stance, and then all of a sudden Ashton Genty starts going back into his original stance, and all of a sudden he blows up. Some of these coaches are fucking idiots. Some of these coaches are really, for lack of a better term, I was going to say something a lot worse. I'll just say incredibly insecure for whatever reason, and they like controlling players more than they like winning. They like having their stamp on players more than they like winning. And honestly, a lot of people who come out of that Patriots system did. The Patriots, we got to look back at that Patriots era and say, hey, this was not some great coached. It wasn't some great coaching and great system. It was fucking Tom Brady, guys. It was Tom Brady making up for another defensive coordinator turned coach and Bill Belichick, who really didn't know shit about offense and proved he didn't know shit about offense. I guess he had the 1 year with Mac Jones, right? McCorkle. But he was just a D coordinator at the end of the day. But he had such a good quarterback that all he had to be was a D coordinator. And they were able to win a bunch of championships. And everybody thinks it's the system. That's why we had Fat Patricia in Detroit fuck up he fucked us up. You had Bill O'Brien down here. You had all these guys. You had and now he's back in New England as a coordinator for Vrabel. What's the guy who was in Denver? Whatever he's a goofy offensive coordinator. Very small dick energy, very scared of player energy, but I can't think of his name. But yeah, Chip Kelly, who I was thinking of. Now I'm trying to think of the coordinator. Josh McDaniel. Sorry, you'll probably get it. Josh McDaniel. He's another one. You had all these different coordinators go out to different places in the league as head coaches, and they all sucked. And they all ruined a bunch of different teams. Even Fat Patricia, after he left the Lions, would go on to fuck up the Eagles a few years ago before they got rid of him. And you had all these goofy-ass coordinators, Josh McDaniels. And now he's back as the OC. They're decent as coordinators some of the time, but they're terrible as head coaches. And they came off the Bill Belichick tree, and not one of them did a goddamn thing. Remember Eric Mangini in Cleveland? I mean, you could just go down the list of these failures. This belief in this system that really was just fucking, you had a all-time great player for a long time. And honestly, the whole league's got to get over Tom Brady. The way we treat quarterbacks. We just think, the quarterback's just going to be so great, he just gets over everything. Because Tom Brady was able to do that. And no, you need more than that. That's why we keep having these quarterbacks fail in one system and then a few years later pop up. Rather Sam Darnold or I guess Geno Smith is starting to fall off. But obviously Baker Mayfield, some extent Jared Goff. And now we see Daniel Jones is maybe the latest guy. And you ruin them because you think they're supposed to just be this franchise changing guy. I'm worried CJ may be another guy like that. I really shouldn't have did the league thing. I should have realized this as I'm ranting. You worry that CJ may be a guy like that. You hope it's not the case. But there's rumors that he want to go to LA. And I'm going to read your comments, Brandon Hollum. I'm just ranting. I'm a rant. Let's read them now. You said Stroud's been low-key dropping insults on Kaylee and pressers, which I haven't seen every presser, but he should. I don't like the way Kaylee calls the games, man. It doesn't make sense, a lot of the shit he does. The Meek stopped calling defensive plays this week and hovering over the offense. Well, that's good, because my worry about D'Amico is that he's just a D coordinator. A very good D coordinator, but it takes more to be a head coach. Said Ohio State was innovate or die like Apple products, not running old schemes. I see. I didn't know Stroud said that. And Chip Kelly, that's what they say. Yeah. Honestly, though, as much as I dislike Chip Kelly, he would have been better than Kaylee. You just need somebody with experience. And now I hear a lot of people want and he probably will get fired eventually. I don't know if he's going to be the first to get fired. But and I got to get it right. Is it Mike? The guy in Miami, Mike McDaniel. There's Mike McDaniel and Mike McDonald. One is in Miami, the other's in Seattle, and I get their names mixed up. But the one in Miami, a lot of people think after Houston or after he gets fired, he could be the offensive coordinator next year. I do remember when they called Chip Kelly at the Houston airport. I do remember that. Josh McDaniels is New England OC again. He's better as an OC, but he still gets me off. Not gets me off, pause. He gets me kind of pissed off. I just think he's another one. A lot of these coaches have really small ego or big egos and small confidence, and they try to take it on the players. There's some weirdos in the coaching fraternity. I thought Caleb was going. I thought he was going to install much more of a Rams-like offense, and they were going to have Nico in the slide and do a bunch of more creative things. And that's not what we're getting. Chip Kelly left Ohio State, so Stroud couldn't tell him anything about Ohio State. That's true. He was he the coach? I think the coordinator. I don't keep up as much at college. And obviously, CJ was at Ohio State before he came in the league. So, this Houston-Baltimore thing, man, one of these teams got to win. Stroud wanted to air it out, get the young guys moving, scheme avoid because of lack of protection time. Well, you're supposed to have route concepts with developing routes plus checkdowns. You got running back. You got Woody Marks. What was the point of having Woody Marks? Yeah, you're right. You need protection time. And I think that's an issue talking about Baltimore. I think one of their issues is they have routes that are too long developing for the protection they get. And I also think Lamar's lost a step. So I get sometimes, we say, oh, there's a lot of complaints that these quarterbacks hold the ball too long. And there's some truth to that. But there's also some of that is on the OC for calling plays that require the quarterback to hold the ball too long. You're supposed to have checkdowns. You're supposed to, in these schemes, make sure there are checkdowns. So if the rush is too much, he can check it down to a back. And you spend all this draft capital on a guy like Woody Marks. He's the back to check it down to. Getting rid of Cam, I didn't understand that, getting rid of Cam Robinson. I didn't understand that either. I thought you should have kept him here. I don't understand it. Ed Ingram and Drew Strux stepping out. Howard sticking the right tackle could help that. Yeah. And just, again, having small checkdowns or, smaller or simpler routes underneath. And that's just basic offense. Having checkdowns, and it's okay to sometimes you might have to rely on those checkdowns. Hell, going back to the Patriots way, there's plenty of time with Tom Brady. We just, especially that second half of his career, was a lot of, at least in New England, when he got to Tampa Bay, he aired it out a little bit more. But it was a lot of running back and the tight ends. It really wasn't about the receivers. They did it because he wanted to start. But yeah, you got to do what's good for the team, not just the players. You say, okay, well, I want a Lamborghini. You know what I mean? But we live in this world, so why don't you sit here, back up, be the backup, and you might get your chance to start if something happens. You might get your chance to get minutes. We're still going to need you in the rotation. There's nothing wrong with keeping guys in rotation. Yeah, anyone who can't start can just demand a trade. That's ridiculous. Yeah, hey, man, we still need you. So I know you're upset. We'll see what happens next year, but right now we still need you. We're still – because, I've already seen the memes. If Texas win Baltimore, the season's back on, right? And it is, honestly. If Texans can beat the Baltimore Ravens, the season is back on. You go into your bye. I think Baltimore ultimately will be fine because that back half of that schedule was easy. Just like the Bills. The Bills have one of the easiest schedules I've ever seen for a number one team. The back half of the Texans schedule isn't quite as easy, but it's manageable. You'll be 2-3. I think I do believe in the Colts. I don't believe in the Jaguars at all. I think they're paper tigers. Their defense is decent. The other Josh Allen was Josh Hines Allen on that D-line. But I don't believe in Trevor Lawrence. He's a pick walking out the front door. Maybe they got a decent running game. I don't know what happened to Brian Thomas Jr. It looks like they're using Travis Hunter more as a defensive player. I don't know about the Jags. That's still rough. That's still rough business. Said Texas had to beat Baltimore and go 8-4 the remaining games. Woo. But it does happen. We just saw last year the Rams went 1-5 their first few games or first 6 games and ended up winning the division. I think you know what I mean? So it does happen. You can't go on a stretch or on a run. And you say that's obvious to get to 10 if you beat Baltimore to be 10-7. We don't know what it's going to take. I mean, obviously the Colts are 3-1, and we'll get into the predictions shortly. 10-7 should get to playoffs, just not as the home team. I think 10-7 is good enough to get you in. Sometimes 9-8 is good enough to get you in. And honestly, the way the AFC is shaking out, 9-8 might still be good enough to get you in. So you might not have to go 8-4, 7-5 might be good enough. A little more manageable. I think 10-7 is obviously safer to get in. But I think, and this has been Texans talk the first half. I appreciate you being here, Brandon Holland. I almost wish you could bring you up and you can just chat. But unfortunately, I don't have StreamYard. And unfortunately, nobody's watching. This pisses me off, man. AFC West. That's true. The West is going to take a lot of playoff spots. Honestly, the North might take a couple too because of the Ravens and the Steelers. The Steelers are ahead now, which they were early last season. They kind of fell off last season. I don't think either the Steelers or the Ravens have too tough of a schedule outside of facing each other pretty much the rest of the year outside this Texans game. And part of the thing with the Ravens is Lamar going to be healthy, right? Because if Lamar's healthier, obviously it's going to be harder to win for the Texans. I'm assuming he's not going to be healthy. He's going to miss a couple games and probably be out until their bye. Bengals and Browns are cooked. Hey, I appreciate you watching, Fifth. Appreciate you watching. I thought we might get some of the I could have did this as a normal stream if I knew that we weren't going to get too many because the vertical look sucks, right? But it does help, more people come and watch the vertical stuff. And I'm not sure if it's because I posted a bunch of stuff today. I posted shorts, I posted videos, and maybe the algorithm's punishing me for doing too much. I don't fucking know. They might have 8 and 9. Yeah, they might not be good enough to make the playoffs with all the injuries, and they got issues of their own as far as defense coordinator. And they got to come to terms with the fact that Lamar is getting older, and he does not. Lamar has lost a step, and I can tell you that objectively as a Lions fan, because 2 years ago, we when we played him, we got in the backfield, and he would just make us look silly. And then a couple weeks ago, we got in the backfield, we took him down 7 times, and it's because he doesn't. And the whole way they coordinate offense is based upon Lamar's speed. They got to start treating him like a much more normal quarterback going forward. He's still fast, he's still quick, but you got to start treating him like a normal quarterback when you coordinate that offense. You can't keep, he'll just make a play, he'll extend the play. No, he'll take a sack now. He doesn't have that speed to make – he can still make people miss, but just not with that same consistency. He said Bills and Steelers. Yeah, Steelers are still at the top. Actually, we can go into it. I'm not sure how visible it is. To get into the prediction, they have the playoffs kind of set up. So you see, as it currently stands, if the playoffs ended today, Bills would be the number 1 seed in the AFC with the weakest schedule. I think the Bills' schedule is so weak, they're probably going to lose in the playoffs. We faced this last year. If you give a team too weak of a schedule, they just, you know what I mean? You don't really have to do much, and then all of a sudden, when you got some smoke, you're fucked. I think that I severely think that's going to happen to the Bills. They gave them weight. They'll probably end up same thing, 15-2, losing their first playoff game. You can't have a schedule this week and be prepared for the playoffs. I just don't believe it. Anyways, they're still the number 1 seed. Number 2 will be the Chargers in the AFC. Number 3 will be the Steelers. Number 4 will be the Colts. Obviously, you got a bunch of 3-1 teams, and they're using tiebreakers. They'll be developed throughout the season. On the NFC side, number 1 is the Eagles, who I think have a strong look at repeating. Number 2, against all odds, are the motherfucking San Francisco 49ers, though they're about to face the Rams and settle who's going to have to lead that division going forward. And then you got us at the Lions, the 3, Tampa Bay. Between the Lions, Tampa Bay, the Rams, and the Eagles, no disrespect to the Seahawks, who've been playing well, and Green Bay, who came out with a good start, but they're starting to see why. There's a reason. There's a reason the Cowboys had trepidation with Micah Parsons. He can be inconsistent, and as a result, that defense gets inconsistent, and as a result, you're not quite as dominant, because that's what I really felt. What was that last game? Not the Cowboys game, the game before that. I didn't actually see the Cowboy game where they got a tie. But there is that issue where, sometimes Micah Parsons gets 3 sacks and he dominates the game, and there's other games he gets 0 sacks, and it's like, is he really out there? Is he out there? The Bills' schedule is super soft. But let's go back to what you said. You said Bills, Steelers. There's a fight between Chiefs, who are the 7th seed currently, Broncos, who are not up there, Colts, who are up there, Jaguars, who I don't expect to stay, and the Texans, and one of those 6 teams are not going to make it. I don't see the Jags making it. The Broncos need to get their shit together. Obviously, it's still early, but they're not even up here. Technically, the Bengals are going to fall off. Jake Browning cannot hold down the fort, so you can count them out long term. But again, you see the AFC's not quite, being 500 is good enough to be the bottom 2 seeds, the 6th and the 7th seed in the AFC playoffs right now. So we'll see how it shakes out. Bill's schedule is soft. Probably ends with 3 months of snow games. Can't see Joey Bosa being healthy up north all season. Fair enough. Texas have a bunch of indoor games, no cold games, 1 rainy game, lots of rest, early one. That's true. And after the Ravens, Texas have the bye week. And then the Ravens have another game, and then their bye week. Texas have an offensive improvement week against a weaker Ravens defense, then 2 weeks to build on that. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, maybe you come back from that bye and you got some smoke with you, and you can actually be more of a competent offense. When I picked the Texans to win the Super, or not to win the Super Bowl, to be the Super Bowl team, it was based on having the best defense in the league, which you could argue they still do. They got definitely one of. and having at least a middle of the pack offense where so far they've been the worst or one of the worst. I think that the last game maybe took them out of the worst category, but they're still one of the worst offenses. We'll see how they do long term. Let me get into these predictions. I've been ranting about the damn Texans a half an hour. Let's get into these. Oh, before we get into the predictions, hold on. Before we get into the predictions, let's see how I did. I'm not going to go through the box. I may go through the box scores. So week 4. Oof. I've been 11-5 the first 3 weeks. So let's see. I got Seattle right. I got Pittsburgh right. So that's cool. I was wrong about Washington. Atlanta won that game. So 2-1. Right about Buffalo. Right about Detroit. Right about Houston because I had to be. Right about New England. Wrong about, got this wrong. So that's 2 wrong. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 and 2 on the first sheet because I can only spit so much in these screenshots. And where's the other one? Oops. Where the hell? Uh-oh. I got the same one twice. Hold on a second. I don't know what happened to my 6 and 2. Trying to remember 6 and 2. I'm trying to find a picture of I take a screenshot of these every week so I can compare and see what happened as of last week. Where the hell is this thing? Okay. So I'm 6 and 2. If I go 11-5 again, I need to be registering these picks. Like I'm not gambling. I don't know. Okay, we got it. So let's get this up. Alrighty. So Philly 7-2, Rams 8-2. Got this wrong. Jacksonville, as much as I talk shit about, and they did this. So 8-3. Baltimore failed. So 8-4. Chicago got right. 9-4. This was technically a tie, so I got that wrong. 9-4. So 9-5 or not. So one. I guess 9-4-1 technically. Jets unfortunately still winless. 9-5. So not quite 11-5. So technically it was. I'm not gonna count that. I'm gonna count the one low. So we were 10-7. 10-7. So I'm hovering around 11-5, 10-7 each week. Not bad. I'll take it. I'll take the win percentage. I'll take it. So that's what we did last week. We can go more in depth into games of last week. So I was 10-7. 17-14 is not close to 26-0. I thought it might be a closer game. I thought it might be. Yeah, the scores were absolutely off. No doubt about that. And there's no way I was going to predict 40-40 for the fucking Cowboys and the Cowboys-Packers game. Kelly knows he has to work with the players and make it work where he's gone. His dream is dead. You're absolutely correct. And he's got to do better. Now, I do understand why people are starting to, I'm not going to say sour, but they are, there's questions being asked about CJ, and rightfully so, because now you want to wonder, hey, is this guy just, is he a one-year wonder? Which, not entirely true. Second year was pretty good, especially that playoff game. He made some plays to help you win. But it's something worth wondering. Predicted Jerry Jones trying to win every game 48-45. Bro, the Dallas defense offense, they're the new Bengals. Where, Bengals last year had like one of the worst offenses, one of the best, one of the worst defenses, one of the best offenses. Yeah, he went full Bengals. That team is scoring a ton of points. A ton of points, man. They've like 35, 40. Like every game they're scoring like damn near 40 points. Can't be great, can't be exciting. Yeah, you know what, man? Unfortunately, Jerry Jones is an excellent businessman. And I say unfortunately because it's like, you're still going to go to those games. You're a Dallas fan, right? you still have a reason to show up to every game. You may not think they're going to make the playoffs, but shit, Dax might throw for 400 yards. They might score 45 points. They may lose 46, 45, but it's going to be a shootout. Ratings. And it makes that look even better. Yeah, because now you can say, well, it's not his fault. Look at this defense. And, I mean, they've been scoring a ton of points. Let's get into some of these other box scores. We're not going to get too in-depth. The Seahawks game. I didn't know Benson also got hurt. This sucks. Seahawks, Cardinals. Somebody's got to win the West between these four teams. I thought the NFC West would be going to be a difficult division. The Cardinals have a way of always underachieving because they really have as much talent as any other team in that division. They were kind of getting blown out or kind of at least being dominated most of the game, but came alive in the fourth quarter. Quick to look at the box score. Darnold, no picks, 242 yards, and a touchdown. You really can't ask for much more. Kyler Murray, 2 picks, 2 touchdowns, though. But he got sacked 6 times. It's unreal. Though that Seahawks does have a nice pass rush. I remember somebody said they had the rookie that they were high on, and that pass rush has been pretty good. Let me see. Fumble. They did lose a fumble. Looks like Seattle. Oh, yeah, that was that weird play. Wasn't there a pick fumble? Because I watched that game. So if I remember correctly, there was like a pick, and then the defensive player fumbled. Really weird play. Marvin Harrison, a lot of people are up and down on him. Pause. He had that one touchdown. He had that moment. I hope it's the turnaround moment he's looking for. I don't think he's a bad player, but he might have been slightly overhyped for what he is. It looks like, even though his ACL is gone, Malik Neighbors was the best receiver in that draft class last year. This two-headed monster with Charbonnet and Walker put in production. Then Darnold had a 24-yard run of his own, 155 yards on 35 carries combined. Obviously, a lot was helped by that Darnold, but they still there's a lot of utility in a carrier, NFL carry. Some teams get it, some teams don't. And Seahawks do. They run the ball, they play good defense, and they give their quarterback the easiest chance to win. It works. It's what's working for the Eagles. The Steelers win kind of a nail-biter, similar to what I just said, where the Steelers were pretty dominant in Dublin. Then the fourth quarter, the Vikings came alive. Apparently, Pittsburgh and Dublin, there's some connection with the owner because it's basically a home game in England and in Ireland. Who's going to get traded by the deadline? That's a good question. Haven't seen anything about Nick Emmanuel? Yeah. Me neither. I was hoping more from him. But, yeah, I haven't really seen much out of him. So, yeah, this Vikings getting Steelers. I predicted the Steelers were going to compete for that division. And I said it may come down to – because the last game of the year for the Steelers and the Ravens are against each other. And I think they got 2 or 3 of the last games, last few games. There's a lot of divisional stuff in the AFC North. And whoever comes out of that smoke – because, you know what, the Ravens are coming out to a bad start. They're not done. And the Steelers, just because they had a good start, they're not guaranteed. They had a good start last year with Justin Fields and Russell Wilson, lost the last 5 games and gave up the division last year. But Aaron Rodgers, say what you want. I mean, he's been solid. No picks, 200 yards, 18 for 22. I don't know what this QBR shit is, but decent. Look at the rating, 119 rating. Can't ask really for much more. Gainwell kind of came out of nowhere as far as a rusher. 19 for 99 plus 2 touchdowns. Jordan Mason didn't do as much as you would like for Minnesota. Carson Wentz, threw a bunch, 46 times, 2 picks, 2 touchdowns, 6 sacks. Just yeesh, that's rough. But hey, JJ had a big game. Addison had a big game his first game back. So we'll see what happens with the Vikings. I don't know what's going on with the other JJ McCarthy, but he, and a lot of people thought maybe Wentz might be better. I don't know. We'll see what's happening there. Commanders and Falcons, I got this one wrong if I remember correctly. There's another injured quarterback. I don't know if Jane Daniels is coming back this week. I don't know if he should. And you do wonder, is he going to have leg injuries his entire career? This is not the first time he's had a decent injury. Michael Penix, another guy I cut prematurely. He had 313 yards, 2 touchdowns. I cut him after one. He did have the pick. And I feel like an idiot for cutting him. Even though quarterbacks, you could do, you can find quarterbacks in fantasy. Marcus Mariota, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. Bijan had a solid game. 17 for 75. Plus, he really had a great game as a receiver, 4 for 106. And that's where he really cooks that combined yardage. Kyle Pitts. Speaking of guys who were drafted and lauded in the draft, Kyle Pitts is not having that bad of a year. And honestly, if you look, Kyle Pitts is not that bad of a player. I am a Kyle Pitts guy. I think Kyle Pitts is one of these guys. He'll never be what you thought he was going to be when he came out of college, but he is still a solid player. He's already got 200 yards and a touch. You know what I mean? 20 receptions. He's doing okay. Tight ends, we don't have 10 tight ends going over 1,000 yards. He only went over 1,000 yards once. He's a solid tight end. I'm not just saying that because he's my fantasy tight end and he hasn't been doing that bad. So, yeah, Atlanta's an interesting team, man. They're one of those weird teams that play up and down to the competition. Pause. There were better. That's the thing. You'll never get that draft capital. Like, damn, we could have had him. We could have had him. And so people look at Kyle Pitts as a bad player. He's not a bad player. He was just drafted way too high. You look at his talent. If you got it in the second round, you'll be happy to have Kyle Pitts. But at number 4, and I think, man, I'm a believer that you shouldn't draft, that the tight end position just is an overrated position. You had Gronk, you had Travis Kelce's years. That's it. Hey, Caden, I appreciate you being here. We're talking a little football. I didn't know if anybody else was going to show up. Not the biggest turnout, but it's okay. It's okay. Brandon Hollum has been here. We're just talking a little football. Need the Commanders to lose more and miss the playoffs for our draft pick. Okay. If Ravens lose to the Texans, they have to go 9-3 with a first place schedule and remaining games and injured players. But if you look at that schedule, and we can get to it later, it's not a real first place schedule. It's not a first place schedule like the Lions got or like the Chiefs got or like some other team. The Giants got a harder schedule than the Ravens and the Bills. I don't know what the schedule makers were doing with those teams. To me, it's clear that they were trying to get the Bills and the Ravens back in the playoffs. That's the thing. There are those exceptions, right, Coach? Tyler Warren has made a difference. But it's very hard to predict that, man. Tyler Warren has made a difference. And then look at look at what Brock Bowers and George Kittle are doing. They're not as good as they were last year. It's just not as cut and dry as a position as receiver or running back. Not from a fantasy standpoint or real life. And you got to be, if you can get 800 yards a season out of a tight end and like 6 or 7 touchdowns, that's a good year. But, yeah, there have been years where you have a guy 1,300 yards, 11 touchdowns. Travis Kelce's put up those type of years. Antonio Gates has put up those type of years. Gronk has put up those type of years. But they're not the common years. You know what I mean? You might have 1 or 2 of those a season. And, hey, Matt friend, you're not just – you're everyone's friend. You're Matt friend. You're my friend, Matt. So appreciate you being here. You're here. We're here. We're talking some NFL, some NIFL football. We're going through the games of last week, and we're going to get into tomorrow. Yeah, that's what makes it suck. All the guys you could have had, Jamar Chase, Jalen Wild, Penei Sewell, which changes the Lions, J.C. Horn, Devontae Smith, Pat Surtain. That's why Kyle Pitts lives in such infamy. But he is a good player. If you take that out of it and you just say, hey, what is his tight end numbers compared to the other tight ends? He's like a top 12 tight end since he got in the league, which ain't bad. It just ain't what you think. And part of that is because being a top 12 tight end don't really mean shit. Let me see. Let me actually Google Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts TE stat. So look at what Google says. Oops. I don't want to do this one because I got that wrong. Hold on. Okay, this is PFF. Actually, you know what? Hold on a second. Let me. So I got two different browsers. The one I'm signed in as Real Me instead of Vigilante. Okay, this one has the Vigilante logo. So he's 3rd out of 33 in tight end grade from PFF. Rushing grade I don't care about. Oh no, he overall grade 3rd out of 33. Receiving grade 2nd out of 33. From this is Reddit, so you gotta check the stats on this. What I'm about to say, but it says from 2021 to 2024, he ranks amongst the top tight ends in average yards per reception. He was first his first year, 4th in 2022, 2nd in 2023, 3rd in 2024. He's the only tight end to rank top 5 in yards per reception each year. He's the average depth of target amongst tight ends. And basically, he's one of the more productive tight ends. He's one of the more offensively productive tight ends in the past few years. Let's see tight end fantasy pros. He's the 8th best tight end right now. Right now. And if you go back, and this is, okay, how bad was he this year? Okay, he was 15 last year. Fair enough. Go 2023. I just think Kyle Pitts gets a bad rap. Yeah, he was drafted too fucking high. 13, okay. And then was 22, 21. Was 21 was the year he was drafted. 22. Oof, he was bad in 20. Where is he? I pass him? Oh, geez, where is he? Okay, 22 was a nightmare. I don't know where he is. Is he hurt? Jesus. And this is going off fantasy, but still. First year, he was a top 10 tight end. So, yeah, 22 was horrible fall off. Horrible fall off. I ain't going to lie. But, again, he's a mid to above mid tight end. No, that's not worth the 4th pick. You're right. He'll never live down all the people around him. You're right. But he's not this just dumpster fire of a tight end like people act like he is. And like people just act like, oh, he's so bad. And it's like, he's all right. He's a solid. He shouldn't have been picked 4th. No doubt about that. Now that he's here, he's more than serviceable. And I think people just got to get, you know what? There's not going to be a lot of tight ends. Yeah, hangover from his bad year. He had some. The years weren't perfect, but he's so far he's top 10-ish tight end, and that's about what he's to be. Top 10 to 14. He's not going to be that guy, but he's not going to be terrible. Shouldn't have been picked 4th, but I think he's got more talent than more people give him credit for. And let's get through. We got a lot of games to get through. Saints and Bills. Bills beat the Saints. I mean, there's not much to talk about. I'm not even going to get into the box score. Josh Allen, two touchdowns. I think Spencer Rattler's a solid quarterback. I actually don't hate the Saints. I think there is some talent here, but they're still on 4. I root for coach. I root for this team. I hope they get right. Browns, Lions, 10-34. The game was a little bit closer than that. Browns do have a legit defense. And Judkins is a legit running back. Joe Flacco, who is going to be not traded out, but sat down for Dylan Gabriel next week. We'll see how that goes next week. He's too long in the tooth for the game anymore. I do think the Shador thing is getting out of hand. He infamously just recently didn't answer questions, and I understand why. Because anytime he says anything, the media is just so lame. Here's the thing: there's a lot of stuff I could go with, but I'll go with the LCD, lowest common denominator. Sports media sucks, so they like LCD, lowest common denominator. They like simple, stupid stories. The Cleveland Browns are not that great of a team. I think they could be a little bit better, but they're not that great of a team. Shador Sanders is a fifth round pick, third string quarterback, but they got to keep making stories about him. And, he's immature. Shut the fuck up. Shut up. Shut up. You are the motherfuckers who hyped this guy up to be, he should be drafted number 1. And now, because the meta is, we get a lot of clicks if we talk about Shador, and if we're bad at Shador, you get that heel heat. You're bashing Shador. Shut the fuck up. I never thought he was that great of a prospect any fucking way. But you got him here. Let's let the Cleveland Browns try to figure this shit out. You don't have to talk about Shador every 5 minutes. Rex Ryan, he's immature. You're not in the fucking meetings. You're fucking at ESPN doing coke, banging the fucking copy girls like everybody else, allegedly, because I heard it's a freak off there in Bristol, Connecticut. You don't know what the fuck is happening in the Cleveland Browns facilities. So shut the fuck up. Let Dylan Gabriel get the chance he deserves. Give him 6 or 7 games, or however long you need to give him, and we'll see over those games. Really, if I'm being honest, the way I am with quarterbacks, I think you need 2 or 3 years to trying before you know. And I don't think either quarterback is even going to get a full season before they're carted off. And Cleveland keeps this carousel going. 41 quarterbacks since 1999, since they was he ranting about how he didn't want? I did see that too. And yeah, Shador's not but I'm just like, listen, man. At the end of the day, he's a 5th round pick. Until he's playing and mattering, he don't matter. Nobody's asking, what was the 6th round pick that Texans got as their backup? No one's asking his opinion on shit, right? Because no one gives a fuck. And I'm done. I'm done talking about this fucker until he gets on the field. What's the guy? What is the guy's name that they just drafted in like the 6th or 7th round? I'm gonna have to Google it. Graham Mertz, yes. Could you imagine giving a fuck about what Graham Mertz's opinion is or anything? On anything. I don't care if he likes Rudy's. I don't give a fuck about Graham Mertz's opinion. Just like I don't give a fuck about Shador Sanders' opinion. Cause I'm not accepting this bullshit that fucking Deion Sanders was a commentator for 15 years. Nobody had a problem with it. And then as soon as he becomes a coach, he's this, whatever anti-hero. He's just another guy who was in a dress for ESPN 15 years ago. I don't give a shit, man. Y'all not making me. I'm sick of when the media says you're going to care about a story that doesn't fucking matter. The Cleveland Browns are not going to make the fucking playoffs. They may never rebuild this franchise. The last chance they had a franchise quarterback was Baker Mayfield. They let his ass walk out the door. They got to live with the consequences. No, Mertz's dad's not famous. That's the difference. But they're both, the talent-wise, they're the same thing. I don't give a fuck about how famous Shador Sanders' dad is. Right? Because there's a bunch of other famous kids that don't play quarterback. I don't know what the fuck Charles Woodson's son is doing. We talk about great DBs. I don't know what's Darryl Green's son. What's he doing? Oh, nothing? Well, who gives a fuck? I'm sick of the fact that they're forcing us to give a fuck about a 5th round pick. I don't care anymore. Till he gets on the field, which, no, you don't put him in. You do put in Dylan Gabriel. You give him 8-9 games, whatever it takes. And then Or if he gets hurt, okay, then you put in Shador and you give him a chance. But I'm just sick of both sides. I'm just done with this story. I'm done with it. I'm done with this segment. Let's go to the Patriots and Panthers. Rematch from the Super Bowl, what was it, 2003? With Jake Delhomme. Remember Jake Delhomme and Steve Smith. It was a pretty good game. But this was not a good game. Patriots beat the hell out of the Panthers. Shout out to Charlotte. Shout out to Bojangles. It was not to be. No Bojangles this game for a Panthers fan in the Charlotte area. Shout out to Uptown. Shout out to the University area. Shout out to Midtown. Shout out to Noda for the hipsters. Shout out to Still Creek. It's starting to get a little wild. Shout out to Charlotte. But yeah, they got shellacked. Chargers, Giants. Huge upset. Fucking Jackson Dart. This is why there's some utility in starting a rookie. Jackson Dart looked impressive. Sucks that MetLife claimed another sacrifice and Malik Neighbors ACL. That sucks dick. Because I there was a point before that happened, and I was watching this on Red Zone. I'm thinking, maybe the New York Giants has something. They got Cam Scatterbo, and now they got Jackson Dart, and now they got Malik Neighbors. They kind of got like a little triplets thing going on. Maybe they can finally build something. But was not to be. Neighbors only 2 catches for 20 yards. Jackson Dart, only 111 passing yards. I think what was impressive was the rushing. He had 10 carries for 5.4 yards. Scatterbo, not the greatest game, but still that utility, 25 carries. Even though he didn't go for that many yards, still a pretty good power back. 42 carries if you add Singletary stuff and Jackson Dart. It's like all of a sudden you got an offensive identity. And you're not just relying on Russell Wilson's moon balls. Like, okay, we can run the ball down the team's throat. He was kind of compared to Jalen Hurts coming out of college. Maybe you are going to get more of that. Herbert throwing 2 picks. I don't know what's happening. Did get sacked a couple times. This New York defensive line should be a little bit better than what they've displayed. So, and this defense overall should have been better than what they've been displaying. Amarion Hampton had an incredible game. 12 carries for 128 yards. Sometimes you really got to keep at that running game, especially if you're doing 10 yards a carry. You got to really keep at the running game. They let the Giants off the hook. With that, Quentin Johnston having his breakout year, 8 for 98 plus a touchdown. Keenan Allen, 5 for 37, not helping my fantasy team. But we had big upset with the Chargers and the Giants. Worst part of MetLife is 2 teams that use it, fair enough. But that damn turf. And yeah, that does suck. Both the Jets and the Giants being trash as hell. So let's keep it going. Eagles, Buccaneers, a pretty good one. The Eagles keep having these close games with NFC competition. Baker Mayfield did Baker things. 289 yards, 2 touchdowns. Did throw that pick. Jalen Hurts, and there's been some talk about this in the receivers. Only 130 yards, 2 touchdowns. Saquon Barkley, there's some talk about this. There's some talk about how this offensive production is not great. But they're still winning games. They're still putting points on the board, and that's all that matters. I know there's a lot of talk that A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith are not necessarily happy with their roles and not happy with the yards they're getting, and there's some talk about Saquon. You look at it from all-purpose standpoint, nearly 100 yards. Was it 43, 70, 74 yards, a touchdown. It ain't the worst day on earth for Saquon, but they're winning games, man. That's all that fucking matters. Hunter returns to Houston. Stingley pushes through an injury for the Texans to get their first shutout in 15 years. Jeez. Yeah, they did say Stingley was hurt. And that was, he was able to play through it. Yeah, that is the next game we have. Titans and Texans. The Texans need this one. It says it right there. Houston defense first shutout in 15 years. I still think very highly of this defense. This team can be a playoff team, but they need a lot. They really need a come to Jesus moment with this offense. I think this offense has more talent than it's displayed, but they got to get it together. They were able to beat on the poor. And another thing I'm seeing, man, do they have the drops? Because there's so many fucking drops with this Cam Ward. Cam Ward's numbers look terrible, but they're not showing how many drops this team ends up having. Let me see. Passing. Oh, I wish I could see how many drops. It wouldn't shock me if Tennessee leads the league in drops. But the perception is that Cam Ward sucks, which he's still a rookie, but he is trying to do everything for a very, very bad franchise. And I'm starting to see, I keep seeing it. I saw it with Caleb. It's like, oh, let's just blame the quarterback for how bad the franchise is. Like, well, can we stop are we going to stop doing that? Are we going to stop doing that? Granted, fuck the Titans for a lot of reasons as a Texas fan. I think you were the one who brought up how many people were connected to the Titans involved with that Aziz thing from last year. And I still think it's mind-boggling that the Houston Oilers and all of that work, if you buy a Houston Oilers jersey, that counts as a Tennessee Titans. That's absolute trash. And, we just mentioned the Cleveland Browns. Technically, the Cleveland Browns are the Baltimore Ravens, right? But they allowed Cleveland to get their franchise back. They did not do that with Houston. It is still like one of the biggest travesties in sports. And it's just swept under the rug. Everyone's used to it, but it's just unbelievable bullshit. Unbelievable bullshit. So there's always some rivalry there. Versus team they hate the revenge home game. Shout out to Houston for putting the beast on the Titans. I just think it's crazy that they own the Oilers trademarks. Just that's the most insane shit to me. But whatever. I'm not the league. This was another close game with the Colts. They weren't able to pull this one off. The Rams. Matthew Stafford had a hell of a game. 375 yards. Looks like 3 touchdowns, no picks. Puka Nacua is like one of the best. Puka Nacua is probably the best offensive player of the year. The way it's going. He's just having a fucking crazy year. 13 catches, 170 yards, a touchdown. Devontae Adams had his share. For 56 and a touchdown. Daniel Jones played okay. Did throw too many picks, 2 picks to 1 touchdown. Got sacked a couple times. Stafford got sacked. Jonathan Taylor did his thing, 17 for 76. Could have used a few more carries. Tyler Warren even got a carry or 2, including a touchdown. Tyler Warren is a good player. We mentioned him earlier. He's pretty good. It might. I mean, the way it's paced, it looks like that was the thing I was thinking because, Cooper Kupp had an incredible year that was it their championship year or the year before? I can't remember. But he had an incredible year that one year, whichever one it is. I think he even won a Triple Crown. I think Puka is getting more touches. He has so many. I think he's getting more catches. So he's. I think he's on pace to probably eclipse it. Must have been a championship. Yeah, I think it was. And I missed the comment. You say I think they tried to build a Texas O-line: Cam Robinson, Lincoln Tomlinson, Jake Andrews, Tyus Howard, Ursery. But the combo, Ursery, Juice Scruggs, Jake Andrews, Ed Ingram, and Titus Howard. You got to go with who's ever the quote hot hand and who's ever working. And listen, I'm not sure if Ed Ingram really is the best guard in the league, but PFF thinks he is, and he's doing something. So you got to keep him in there. And you might have to building an offensive line is hard. It's the hardest thing to do in the NFL because it's very hard to fill the offensive line. I really think there are some international players. I really think as much as the NFL wants to go international, they really need to give some thought to giving a lot of sumo players and trying to convert sumo from Japan into offensive linemen. Because there's no other place where you're getting that skill set. And it's like the skill set needed to play offensive line. You need a fair amount of intelligence because you have to read pass rushes fairly quick. You need a fair amount of athleticism. And you have to still be at least 6'5", 300 to 350 pounds, it's just not easy to. There's only so many human beings that are even going to have that capability. It's some. So you're limiting yourself by just staying in America. I don't know if America produces enough offensive line to deal with these incredible edge rushers that we now have. The rugby skills. So yeah, the one guy for the Eagles played rugby. I can't think of his name. I always fuck it up, and I think you always correct me. Rugby's another place. Going overseas to look for rugby players is another place where you can get those guys. I think you need to start really thinking about expanded international recruiting for Malata. Yep. Or Malita. I'll call Malata. Melita. Mylata. I think it's Mylata. Or Maylata. I think it might be Mylata. Mylata. Yeah. I think he's a rugby guy. Because I don't think we're going to produce enough great offensive linemen for every team. I think that's the one issue that you're seeing. That's why they're doing so much to try to help the offense. We got these new kickoff rules. It's because a lot of these, quarterbacks are getting their head cracked. Hitting the Benjamin. I'm surprised there's anything left of this damn thing. Said, do the Colts end up pissing Adonai Mitchell when he returns to Houston? ? I'm not sure. Had a fumble lost in the game. I don't know. I mean, sheesh. I kind of like their receiving core. I mean, they got Michael Pittman, Josh Downs, Tyler Ward. Obviously, Adonai Mitchell had probably the best game last week. We'll see what happens in the trade deadline. We'll see what happens. The trade deadline has gotten a lot hotter the past few years. And there's going to be a lot of teams who are going to be interested. We'll see what happens then. But do you make a trade inter-conference, not just inter-conference, but inter-division? You know what I mean? You might cut somebody and they go to a different team, but just try. I guess, they did Christian Kirk. The Jags did. But that's because they were going to cut him. So for that to happen, it would get to the point where they want to cut him. And, like I said, he had one of his best games recently. So we'll see. Jags and 49ers. Did we talk about that? I don't know if we talked about Jags and 49ers, but it was a surprising game. Jags. I don't know what to say. I mean, you had the punt return TD. If you look at the box score, Trevor Lawrence is not doing much. Travis Etienne they've had a lot of stuff come out of their rushing game, whether it's Etienne or Tootin. Week to week it changes. But that's one of their saving graces on offense. Christian McCaffrey, still a ton of touches. I'm worried about him getting so many touches. 17 carries, 6 catches, almost 150 all-purpose yards, 92 catching, plus a touchdown, 49 rushing. I really think Brian Robinson Jr. needs to get some more of these carries. I think Christian McCaffrey is making his money in the passing game. Brock Purdy, 2 picks. Can't have that. Brock Purdy's obviously has some health issues. May be out again. May have to see more of my guy McCorkle. BTJ had an improved game, 5 for 49. Still not where you wanted him to be. Maybe it was just, speaking of McCorkle, maybe BTJ just had a chemistry with Mac Jones, because if you look at what Brian Thomas Jr. did last year, most of his numbers were Mac Jones, not with Trevor Lawrence. And maybe they just don't have the chemistry. And now Mac Jones is obviously the backup in San Francisco. We'll see if he has to come out again. I think Mac Jones might be a guy next year that's in the QB chase. Might be one of those guys again, to emulate a Sam Darnold or Baker Mayfield. I think a team might give him a chance, and he might, if the team is good enough around him, make them happy. He did. I actually liked the way he looked in backup duty for the 49ers. So we'll see what happens there. Jags versus 49ers. Watching Purdy suck. Let's see. I missed a bunch of stuff. You talk about Donnie Mitchell. Stroud wants to air it out like he would in the McVay offense. He's annoyed. They got Kelly from there. They haven't been able to. It's weird that they haven't been able to air it out. They haven't been able to dink and dunk. They just really haven't been able to do anything. Oh, you mean wait out his rookie contract? Okay, long term, yeah, maybe. Trading his last year next after this season. Maybe. And yeah, Jags is 49. I didn't really watch much of this game. I ain't gonna lie. Ravens Chiefs. Saw parts of it. And I don't care what nobody tell me. What's his name? Lamar Jackson's lost a step. I don't want to say Henry's lost a step, but there's something mentally. It's time to give Justice Hill a lot more of these carries than Derrick Henry. 3 carries, 76 yards. It's like, why aren't you force feeding the ball to Justice Hill? You still got a good offensive, at least you still have a good run offensive line. They're decent at run blocking. Cooper Rush got in. He may have to get in more than just what he did. They're going to have to, after this season, I don't want to consider this a lost season. They may still make the playoffs in the Ravens, but they're going to have to get after the season. They're going to have to decide, do we still want Harbaugh to be our coach? I'm assuming we still want Lamar to be our quarterback. Are we Lamar? We've been able to basically deal with Lamar as this super being where you didn't necessarily need the best offensive line because he can make plays happen. Now he's become a little bit more of a normal quarterback. You're going to need to improve this offensive line. And this defense, which is one of the highest paid defenses in the league, I know a lot of it's injury. I get you can't help injury, but you got to play better for what you're getting paid. It's just there's no way around it. And let's be honest, even when some of these guys are healthy, they're not playing the best. And that's not just this year. You could say some of that last year. They started to gel the last few games, but the first half of last year, they got off to a terrible start numbers-wise as far as the defense. They were able to win games, but Lamar's not that fast anymore. This is the drop-off point. Kansas City is still Kansas City. Mahomes had 4 touchdowns, looked a little bit more like the old Mahomes. Xavier Worthy had, they really just kind of committee, but he did 2 carries for 19 yards apiece. Really one big carry, 35-yarder. Pacheco has some carries. Kareem Hunt has some carries. Xavier Worthy really did his damage in the receiving game. Hollywood Brown had a touchdown. Juju Smith-Schuster, shout out to the Unks, had a touchdown receiving. Even Tyquan Thornton had a touchdown receiving. I don't know where the Kansas City is going to end up long term. I, before the season, predicted that the Chargers will win that division. I kind of came off that prediction in the first episode of this, I guess you want to call it a podcast. I still kind of feel like the Chargers are going to end up winning that division, but it does not mean the Chiefs won't make the playoffs. Bears and Raiders, Bears won. Raiders suck. They got some talent on defense, but motherfucking, and just a real quick, Geno Smith, what did he throw? 3 picks? That you can't win like that. There's actually more talent in that Raiders team than what they're displaying. Geno Smith, I thought would be a better quarterback than what he's been. I didn't think he was going to be the best quarterback in the league, but I thought he was going to be better than that. Either Lamar's injured or he benched himself. We'll see what happens if he plays, man. That was weird. He either benched himself and faked the injury or he's hurt. It can't be both. And that's the one thing. Chargers have had maybe too many injuries. And so they you're right, the Chiefs might get it back together. The Chargers have had way too many injuries, especially on that offensive line, speaking of the position. We'll see what happens with Lamar. And maybe, there's been a lot of talk about Mike Tomlin needing to leave Steelers for being there so long. I think some of that talk about Harbaugh has to be had as well. And let's be honest, fucking Ravens have had way more talent than Pittsburgh has had the past 5-10 years. Way more talent, and they don't have a Super Bowl they don't have a Super Bowl appearance. I know a lot. John Harbaugh has been able to coast on Mike Tomlin being the long-toothed coach in his division. But, man, he's got the one Super Bowl back in, 2012. It was 13 years ago. He's underachieved with a team, and I think there's a non-zero chance they've already missed their window. Yeah, that was their chance. Their DC. Again, I get McDonald and McDonald and McDaniel. McDaniel, I think he's the Miami guy. McDonald is the Seattle guy who you're talking about. They wanted to promote their DC that left to go coach Seattle. They should have. They should have promoted him and Harbaugh. Even if he wanted to coach, take a year or two off and then come back later. Just gracefully step down because it's time, man. And I think they're going to have that conversation this year, regardless of what happens, because I think they might sneak into the playoffs, but I don't expect them to win much. So we done? Did we do them all? Oh, no. Packers, Cowboys. That was a crazy game. I missed it. I always miss the fucking the Sunday night game because of work. So I did miss this one, but a crazy game, especially ending in a tie. I know there's been talk about maybe they should do some more to make sure these games are in a tie. Both quarterbacks throw for 3 touchdowns. Javonte Williams, one of the surprise running backs of the year, 20 carries, 85 yards and a touch. Josh Jacobs, one of the better running backs, period, 22 carries, 86 yards and 2 touches. Crazy offensive game. Josh Jacobs also leading the team in receiving for 71. Romeo Doubs, fantasy god, 3 touchdowns. George Pickens, who was on my bench, not starting as a fantasy guy, 8 for 134 for 2 touches. Jake Ferguson also got a touch. Crazy offensive game. That Dallas defense sucks. That offense is pretty good. I don't think they'll make the playoffs, but hey, how about them Cowboys? They'll sell out tickets. It'll be exciting. These 2 shitty games, I'm not looking at either of the box score. Let's be honest. Of these 4 teams, only the Broncos have a chance. Bengals are done. Dunzo. For the fantasy guys, sorry for anyone who got Jamar Chase or Chase Brown because there's no more Joe Burrow, so neither one is going to be good. And speaking of injuries, Tyreek Hill, is that the one? Because his ACL, MCL, PCL, there's no more CL. Smooth off, CL smooth for Tyreek. Yeah, I do remember that. And I kind of, you know what? I would say if they, over the first 4 weeks, they were proving those people right, though. Because they weren't even using Woody Marks. Now, when I saw Woody Marks' tape, I understood why they drafted him. Because I think he's good. His numbers really come from his passing and his pass catching, which is still what he's going to be known for. But he's good to give you some carries, too. I think he could be, a Chase Brown, Devin Achane, what's the other guy? Eckler. Eckler's out for the season. I think he could be one, at the highest heights of Christian McCaffrey, one of those guys that, yeah, he's a running back, but he's good for 5 to 7 targets a game and good to make one of those targets explode and good for a good 10 to 15 carries. There's a path to Woody Marks being a top-tier back in this league. He has the talent. And I see what Caserio saw. I just don't understand why you do that, and it took so long for you to get him involved, especially when even did they have another game? We had like a 37-yard, I think it was a catch. It's like, man, it's a Kelly Patriot thing. Man, if the offense has to call their own plays, the offense has to call their own plays. He's doing what James Cook did for the Bills. I had the chance to draft James Cook, but I had a bunch of other running backs. Draft James Cook. James Cook has had and I knew he was going to be important because he's really the as much as we talk about Josh Allen, and I don't know if I looked at their box score. What did James Cook give you? This offense really runs through James Cook. 22 carries, 117, 1 touchdown plus a couple of catches, 3 catches. James Cook is what keeps that Buffalo offense going. Woody Marks has that type of potential. I do think he has that type of potential, but you got to fucking use him. You got to fucking use him. All right, this has been a long podcast. I wish we would have had more people show up. I appreciate you showing up, man. You're thugging it out. I know a few people might be lurking. Fizz might be lurking. But Brandon Holland's been thugging it out, co-hosting with me. Let's get into this week's predictions, and then we'll go ahead and get out of here. Whoo, we start off hot. San Francisco versus L.A. I got to think L.A. I don't know about this score. I think it'll be a lot closer. We're going 24-28. Even though these scores I'm just pulling out of my ass. But with all the injuries San Fran has, though, I mean, sometimes it doesn't matter. Plus, I've been hesitant about L.A. because apparently Stafford's been playing with a back end. He's just playing with it, and you haven't heard much about it, but he still has an injured back. So we'll see what happens with that. This is also pretty tough. Cleveland not at home. They're in London against Minnesota. It counts as a home game, which sucks dick. You would think Minnesota should win because they were over in Europe. They were in Dublin. They stayed there. Oh, Cleveland has a really good defense. And I don't know if JJ is going to play. And I don't know, man. Low scoring game. We'll go 14. I'm going to pick the upset, 17, Cleveland. Even though most teams, if they stay that second game, they do well. Would it shock me if Minnesota blew Cleveland out? No. But I just, Minnesota has some issues. I'm obligated to pick the Houston Texans and the Lions no matter what. So that's what I'm going with. Wouldn't shock me if I'm wrong. But if Lamar's not going to play, wouldn't shock me if I'm correct. I'm going 21-14. Still don't see the Houston Texans getting that many more points. Shit, this might be 17-14 as well. But without Lamar, Baltimore ain't going to do shit. And if they don't got Lamar, honestly, if they don't get Lamar, they could get blowed out too. Somebody's got to win this. Carolina, maybe a little bit of a homer pick, maybe a little bit of a there's no more Tyreek ACL. So I'm going to pick Carolina. I go 24. I can see the offense getting ran up a little bit more. Let's go 32 to 28. I don't know if 32 is even a good score. But yeah, I can see, neither defense is much to ride home about. I can see the offense getting up there in both. But Carolina's in Charlotte. Shout out to that stadium, Bank of America Field. I'm going with Charlotte as a kind of an upset. All of the Ravens CBs are out. Mayday Buke out. Left tackle fullback out. Houston is, I really should change that score and make it more of a blowout, but Houston's offense is still scaring me. They've only had a couple of quarters of being an NFL offense, so I'm going to keep it where it's at. But I am going to still pick Houston. Nico Collins versus Keon Martin. But with all the shit we just talked about with Kaylee, you know what I mean? It would have shot me. Listen, I would love for Houston to get it together in a big way and get a massive win, a massive kind of dominant win over a hobbled a Ravens team. But they got to get out their own head. They got to get out their own head. You know what I mean? And, hey, Nico Collins has had a lot of, or at least has some favorable matchups already in this season. It hasn't really produced. He only had really one or two decent games. Hopefully this will be another one. I mean, really, Nico Collins should go off against the Ravens. He should have, 4 touchdowns. There's no secondary. It's none. There's nothing to stop him. There's literally nothing to stop him. But the only thing that can stop Nico Collins this week is Nick Caley. But Nick Caley's been doing a great job of stopping this team. So we'll see what happens. I got to pick the Colts here. As much as I would love, I wanted Las Vegas. I thought Las Vegas might be 8-9, 9-8 team. Now if Geno's throwing all these picks, we go 21-34. I can see the Colts kind of dominating this game. New Orleans and the Giants. I like New Orleans. I hate to say they're going on 5. They're going on 5. I think they have some talent down here. They're playing hard. They're just not enough talent. 28-17. I know it's in New Orleans. Wouldn't shock me if New Orleans pulled the upset, but I think there's something there with Jackson Dart. He has at least enough of a spark to get them going over this one. So Jags 3 games losing streak start this week. We'll see. What do we got? Dallas 1-2-1 against the Jets. There's no reason to pick the Jets, man. I don't really believe the Jets are going to win, but it's about the Jets, baby. And Aaron Glenn, he's the coordinator I liked who left the Lions. Maybe there'll be a lot of points scored, or a decent amount of points. Let's go 27-24. I really think the Dallas Cowboys are probably going to win, especially because Dak actually plays pretty well at MetLife Stadium. But I'm just being hopeful. That's a hopeful pick. That's not like, oh, my analysis says. I think Dallas is. If I was betting this game, which I don't bet, I would bet Dallas before I bet the Jets. But I'm picking out of shout out to Aaron Glenn's fucking Earth, Wind, and Fire dance. I'm hoping he can do his dance and finally get a win. I don't want to see Aaron Glenn fired after 1 year, and that's what that's looking like, and I don't want that to happen. So this is going to be an interesting game. Denver is not quite looking like they were at the end of last year. Philadelphia is, they are looking a little bit more vulnerable, but they are still winning games in Philly. But I got to break this 11-5 thing one way. I'm going ballsy. I think Denver shocks the world in a close game. We'll just go 24-21. This is another game where I might just be trying to be too cute. The conventional wisdom would tell you Philadelphia is going to win, especially at home, especially with that the East to West Coast travel. As far as Denver, going from Denver to Philly, that's never easy. But Denver, they're due for a win. They kind of need it. So there's a little bit more hunger there. They really need to get this win. And a lot of times when there's a team that really needs to get this win, they really do need it. And you have a team in the case of Philly. I mean, they've been playing – they have not been playing their best ball on the offensive side, and Denver has a good defense. It wouldn't even shock me if they could cause a turnover or something and get a close win. So that's why I'm picking Denver in the upset. Just need 2 wins. It's possible the Texans have a better record in the Jags in 3 weeks, and that's including a bye if you get the Ravens and the Seahawks. Seahawks is going to be a tough win. Jags got the Chiefs, Rams, and Seahawks. Seahawks are going to be tough for Houston. It'll be tough for anybody. Whew, this would be a game for Tennessee. You might going to go crazy upset? We just talked about the East Coast, West Coast thing. Nashville to Arizona is pretty far. Not quite as bad as Denver and Philly, but it's still travel. Arizona's the type of team Tennessee can get their first win against, right? Because they're so lackadaisical. It doesn't seem like they're always playing full balls to the wall. I just don't see it, not in Arizona. Maybe they give them a scare. Maybe it's a little closer than it should be. I'll go 24-17. You see, I just picked basic scores because I don't know. Speaking of Seattle, Seattle versus Tampa Bay. Hey, Courtney, the Birds are 4-0. We're talking about the NFL. We're actually going to get out of here in a second. Got a few more games to pick. I actually just picked. You can't see what's in the chat. It's blending in. That sucks. I actually just picked against the Eagles to be upset against Denver, so sorry about that. If the Texans can beat the Seahawks, that is a statement win. If the Texans are supposed to be a playoff team, they got to beat the Seahawks. They're going to have to make up. They made this bad. They're going to lie in it, and they're going to make up for some of the early season shenanigans. Tampa Bay, Seattle. Wouldn't shock me either way, but I got to pick. I'm going to go with Baker. So, yeah. I say that. Hold on. No, I'm not. There's too many injuries. Tampa Bay is missing too much. Seattle is at home. We just talked about those coast-to-coast games when one team has to travel across the coast. A lot of teams are traveling. People traveling to England. People travel across the country. We're going Seattle. Maybe 28-21. Tampa Bay has too many injuries, including maybe Kyler Murray. We'll beat the shit out of Bengals. I'm not, 35, 14, something like that. I don't expect it. There's nothing to talk about. Jaden Daniels is probably still not going to be healthy, so I'm going to go ahead with the Chargers. And a bounce back game that they need. I'm not expecting much from Washington with an unhealthy Jaden Daniels. This is going to be interesting. Buffalo with the God's gift schedule. Still, they haven't really even traveled outside the Northeast. They just one of the easiest schedules I've ever seen any team have. But New England is an improved team. And New England is going to be playing balls to the wall because they need this game more than Buffalo. See what you guys say. You are in Broncos country. That's right. You're in Colorado. So I'm picking where you are, not where you're from. I was surprised by the Texans barely beat were barely beat by the Rams and Bucks. That's true. You know what I mean? They did lose to really good teams. The Rams and Bucks are really good teams, and that is the weird thing about losing to those teams, having that schedule. If they were 2-2 right now instead of 1-3, they might be a team ranked higher. Where you say, "Oh, well, they only lost to these two really good teams," but it's just how bad they looked. That's what it really is. How bad this offense has looked for stretches is what's really why they're 25th ranked power team, which I think I need to do my own power rankings myself. But last two games, then we got to get out of here because I got to get out of here because I'm starting to fade. I really don't know what's going to happen in this fucking Buffalo game because I just like Buffalo's not going to keep. They're not going to go 17-0. Josh Daniels hadn't had that pick game that he usually has. I want to pick New England. I am gonna pick New England. I know I'm picking a couple of upsets. I'm sick of being like 10-5, 11-6. So this is my upset. Buffalo's defense is nothing to ride home about. That defense is nothing to ride home about. They've been coasting off of an easy schedule. New England is a young team. They're not perfect, and it is on the road. But this is going to mean a lot to them. And isn't this a Sunday night game? All right, peace out, Fizz. We'll get out here pretty in a bit, a short bit ourselves. Thank you, Fizz, for sticking it out. Cause I know you're not a big NFL guy. You believe me when I say yes. D'Amico Ryans absolutely wants to win every game 10-9, and that's a problem. You have God's gift schedule. Doesn't guarantee God's gift injury history. Check back on the Bills later on. Yeah, I think Bills are going to drop this game. They're not going to have a perfect schedule. And Kansas City's going to win against Jacksonville. I don't even think they're going to have that many points. I think that's going to probably be a blowout. We'll go 28-10. So this is my picks. These are my picks for next week. I have the Rams over San Fran, Cleveland in an upset over Minnesota that I might regret, Houston over Baltimore, which they better win, Carolina, a little bit of an upset, but somebody's going to win that game. I guess it could be another tie, but you know what I mean. Indianapolis, Indiana Jones, I think he's going to do well. I think the Giants are going to go into New Orleans and lead them on 5. I know it sucks, New Orleans. Though it wouldn't shock me if it went the other way. Got the Jets. I'm just picking with my heart, not my head, because I honestly think Dallas wins this game, but I want Aaron Glenn to do well. Like I said, super upset in Denver on the road against Philly. It's very hard to travel halfway across the country. So I'm picking multiple travel upsets, actually, where you got one team that doesn't have to travel as much, even this England game. So I'm picking multiple. I'm mad, man. So we'll see what happens with that. I got Seattle going to 4-1. I got Arizona picking up a win against Tennessee. So we'll have 2 0-5 teams. Oh no, we won't. Yeah, we will. We'll have New Orleans and Tennessee. If I have my say, we'll see. Detroit should beat the braces off Cincinnati. There's no reason to think they shouldn't. Just like Kansas City should beat the braces off Jacksonville. More upset stuff for me with New England and Buffalo. I think New England gets the win over Buffalo because Buffalo's not just going to win every game. But I do think the Chargers will beat Washington unless Jaden Daniels plays and is completely healthy. He will not be completely healthy if he plays, so I don't expect that to change. So that's my picks. And let's see. Trip to Baltimore on the road prepares Texas for a trip to Seattle on the road. It does. Because, you just talk about travel. Houston's in a weird place as far as travel. It's not like there's too many outside of Dallas. There's not a lot of teams that are really that close, to Houston. I guess New Orleans, but they're not in the division, right? So, in most games, you're going to have to travel pretty far. So you got, traveling to Baltimore is a distance, traveling to Washington is a distance. So they're going to have to be road warriors. If you are a team that has a bad start, but then gets hot and becomes one of those teams that beats teams that you almost shouldn't and makes the playoffs and makes noise in the playoffs, which is what Houston's looking to do from where they are, you do have to win some of those games. You do have to go on the road and beat Baltimore and go on the road and beat Seattle. Again, the Rams just did it last year, 1-5 start, and they ended up being dominant down the stretch. So it can happen. It can happen. But in any event, it's been fun. It's been real. It's been real fun. Thank you, Brandon Holland, for half co-hosting this show. I tried doing the vertical stream thinking we would get more listeners doom scrolling. That did not happen. So maybe we give this a try. I can see the Jags. That's the thing. The Jags will fall off. I don't know about the Colts. I think the Colts will probably they'll come a little bit back to earth, but they're still going to be good for 10 or 11 games. I think the Colts are going to give you 10 or 11 games. I can see the Jags falling off similar to what the Bears did, where they got off. Remember, Bears last year were 4-2, and then what were they, 5 and I think they only won 1 or 2 more games the rest of the year. They ended up 5-12, 6-11, whatever it was. So I think that's what's going to happen with the Jags. I just see them falling off. I can't believe they gotten this far. I can't believe they beat San Francisco last week. That was a fluke. But any given Sunday, right, those games are going to happen. That's why I picked a few of them this week. So thank you for, again, kind of co-hosting from the chat, keeping this thing interesting. I still do this shit. It's so crazy to see so many people do NFL stuff and get promoted by the algo, and then the algo gives me nothing. I don't get it, man. Season right now is basically what you predicted last season to be. Fair enough. In any event, it's been real. It's been fun. It's been real fun. If you like the video, please like the video. If you're so obliged to share and subscribe, please do that. And even if you do none of these things, thank you for watching. Thank you for your time. Good night. God bless. I'll talk to all you guys later. Peace.